Hey, Whisper community, and anybody who may have just strayed in like a stray cat. If you're nice and you agree not to bite me, I may keep you for a little bit. But if you are full of fleas and you are the biting type, I'm afraid it's off to the animal shelter with you. This is another Monday Mix video, and if this is your first, then first and foremost, welcome, and thank you for stopping by. Basically what I do is every Monday I select 6 tracks or 6 particular artists I'd like to highlight and just kind of put them out as recommendations. As always, I will put links to each song down in the swimsuit area. Oh, that lovely swimsuit area. What would we do without it? If it wasn't for the wonderful Whispering in Blue, it would just be a dirty old dry description box. But now it's the swimsuit area, and we can all lounge in its glory. So yes, links will be provided down there. And if you like the sound of something, you can go and check that out at your own perusal. Now, the first track that I want to recommend for you this week comes from the album Come Away With Me by Norah Jones. The track is called Don't Know Why, and unlike Norah, I do know why this is in here, and it's because it's a wonderful, wonderful track. I remember hearing this album. The weird thing is I looked this album up not so long ago, and it is nearly 10 years since it came out, which is a little bit staggering to me. It kind of makes me feel a little bit older. It kind of dates me a little bit in my head, but it really does stand up. I listened to it not so long ago, and this was really a kind of gateway album for me into different jazz musicians and more soulful singers. So this album will always kind of have a soft spot in my heart, but I just love the lyrics on this whole album. It's almost as if she's painting lyrical pictures throughout, and it's just done so well. There's lots of so's there, but yeah, I would definitely recommend you check that out. Track number 2 comes from the French electronic duo Air, who you may know for doing the soundtrack to the Sofia Coppola film Virgin Suicides, and contributing to music to Lost in Translation. And the track that I want to recommend to you guys is called Cherry Blossom Girl, and it comes from their album Talkie Walkie, which is going back a few years now as well, but it's an album much like Come Away With Me I kind of recently rediscovered and kind of fell back in love with a big chunk of that album, and Cherry Blossom Girl is definitely one of the standout tracks, not just on that album but from that whole group. Just really, really nice sort of swooning electronic music, and I don't know how else to describe it. It's just really pleasant and just really nice, and it's got a real warm quality about it. Yeah, definitely check that out. Track number 3 for you this week comes from one of Canada's many, many excellent exports in terms of music. I am of course talking about the Arcade Fire, and the track that I picked out for you for this week as a recommendation is called Crown of Love and can be found on their debut album Funeral, which is not only one of my favourite albums of all time, but I think definitely one of the most definitive and inspirational debuts of the last 10 years. Just a solid album filled with like these really enchanting and wonderful kind of baroque pop type indie guitar sounds mixed with a lot of sort of neoclassical elements, a lot of beautiful string work on that album, and in particular Crown of Love. And Win Butler's voice on this record is just cracking with fragility. It's just so much pain, soaring out of his voice, and just the piano in this song as well is just fantastic. It's very kind of maudlin and kind of melancholy to a degree, but it kind of hits this stride in like its last third and just really kind of picks itself up to a really strong sort of gallop and just really elevates itself. Brilliant song and a brilliant album, brilliant group to be honest. Definitely one of the more consistent bands of the last few years. And if you've never heard much of their material, definitely start with Funeral and work your way through. That would be my recommendation anyway. Of course you can do what you want, but that's just what I would personally suggest. My fourth track for you is one of my favourite songs of this year. It's called Gabriel, and it comes from Joe Goddard, who you may or may not know from the UK electropop group called Hot Chip. And Joe Goddard he's a seasoned musician. He's worked in bands aside from Hot Chip, such as the Invisible, who were nominated for a Mercury a couple of years ago, and he has recently worked with UK alt rapper Dells on his album Gob, which is another great sort of release you should check out if sort of alternative electro / hip hop fusions are your kind of thing. Definitely check that out. But Gabriel is just it's hard to explain because it's just this free flowing. It's almost got a sort of jazz, like an old-timey jazz structure to it, but in an electronic sense, in the fact that there's no real rigid structure to it. It kind of just flows and progresses and just adds bits and moves and just kind of changes shape throughout. And it's just a really, really solid beat with just minimal catchy elements. On top of that, there's a guest vocal feature from a singer called Valentino, I think is her name, and oh my god, she just makes that track just pop so much. Yeah, easily one of my favourite records this year. Mind you, as is my next pick, which is called Some Days Are Better Than Others, and it is by Matthew Cooper, and it is the title track for the film for which this track is the score for. It's a small independent film by a guy called Matt McCormick, and it features I can't remember who's actually in the film. I know that James Mercer from the Shins is in it, so if you like the Shins and you want to see, I think it's his first acting job, you should try and keep an eye out on it. It is an independent film, very limited release. I have been chasing this thing for months now, and it's still doing festival circuits, so heaven knows when it's going to make it onto DVD, but it looks really good. You should check the trailer out as well if you like sort of real dramatic, sort of heart-wrenching indie type films with good characters. My god, this is turning into a film show. I'm sorry. But this is called Some Days Are Better Than Others, and it's the same name as the film. And it's just really beautiful. It's beautiful melancholy, and that's the best way to put it. And it has a strong underlying sort of ridge of sadness, but on top of it there is almost as if it's being pulled by sort of uplifting strings, which have kind of sunk into the song's surface and are just trying to kind of pull it out of the muck and the mire. It's it's a conflicting kind of tone, but it works really well, and it just sounds very precious, for lack of a better word. And finally, track number 6 for this week comes from a band called the Mynabirds, whose album What We Lost in the Flood We Gained in the Fire, it was one of my favourites of last year, and it's kind of like a classic gospel music mixed with blues, and when I say blues I mean like almost ragtime blues meets modern indie, and it's just such a good mesh of sounds, and much like Matthew Cooper, Some Days Are Better Than Others. It's an album, and it's a song. The song I should have mentioned is called "What We Gained in the Fight." It's the second half of the album's title. Very much a kind of conflicting song in terms of tone. A lot of strong themes about redemption and reliving past opportunities. Just very kind of deep in terms of its tone and its themes, and just this mesh of kind of old school gospel music and blues sentiment mixed with like a more sort of modern indie bass guitar aesthetic. Just really kind of pulls it up and kind of makes you pay attention to it. Just a beautiful song. And if you dig the song, you should maybe check out the album, because it kind of runs with that similar tone and just does a really good job with it. So there you go. That's this week's 6 picks for my Monday mix. And as someone pointed out last week, yes, I'm aware that when this goes up, it's still Sunday in the US, but I don't live in the US. I live in the UK. So by the time it goes up, it's Monday here. And besides, I kind of am in this little rhythm of recording them on a Sunday night. It's quite nice. It's almost like a late night DJ slot where I can talk all hush-toned and husky. That's right, it's just gone 12 o'clock, and coming up at 1 o'clock we've got Husky and Hoagie McGee. That's right, Hoagie is in the studio and he's drawn a beard on with a pen. Oh, Hoagie, what are we going to do with you? Anyway, like I said before, links to each of those songs down in the swimsuit area, and if you check them out and you like them, let me know which songs you like, and maybe I can recommend some other stuff to you. And of course, I'm always open for suggestions for recommendations from you guys. So, get busy with the comments if you so wish. I'm gonna go now. I think that's the worst way I could have ended it, but yeah. Thank you for listening, guys, and I hope that you find something in this strange yet eclectic mix that is to your liking. Ciao, Bella.